How we doing, FT fam? FT Live, Braun, Pierzynski, Kratz, all in unique locations. Kratz, I don't know if I didn't even ask you before the show started. Where are you? Can you tell us?
I can tell you, but I'll have to kill you. No.
Okay.
Virginia. Harrisonburg, Virginia, where we used to live.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. AJ was worried about me, by the way. He didn't know that I wasn't coming. I'm in Utah for a bachelor party that just ended. No?
He wasn't.
First of all, who has their bachelor party in Utah?
I'm going to send that to my cousin.
And second of all, you can stay in Utah.
Wow, that's so rude. I heard that you're making a trip to New Jersey soon, so I'll see you there. See you there, bud. More details later this week.
The sky is going to be the color of your shirt when I land.
The smoke is gone. Kind of.
The smoke is gone. It cleared. It was.
By the way, Scott, are you rooting for the Bucks tonight with your Bucks colors on?
No, I'm rooting for Tiza.
Yeah, Scott's a huge football fan.
The Bucks.
I thought that said T Zampa.
Bucks. I thought you were talking about the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm like, dude, I'm not watching NBA tonight. I'm flying. But anyway, most importantly, first off, let's start. It is MLK Day. We have some tweets we can run as we go along here. Here's the New York Mets celebrating the life and the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. We will definitely ask our guests about MLK Day and the significance as well. Our guests today include Chris Archer, Ron Washington, and Ken Rosenthal is going to join us in about 10 minutes. Here you can see from is this MLK's grandson? MLK?
The third son.
Yeah. As you can see here, and we got a couple others we can kind of shift your way from the Texas Rangers account as well. There you go. For many of the MLB accounts running through today. But Kratz, obviously, as you know, African-American players in our game, it was not always a thing, which is insane to think about. Number one. Number two, I will say when you spin it all the way forward, obviously we don't have Adam today, but he would tell you, we need to get more black players in our game, period. That's a very simple statement.
Easy statement. Yes, there needs to be more, but you're going up against other sports that I think have been glamorized in the media. And as a kid, it's like, oh, man, I would love to go play football. I'd love to go play basketball. Well, I did too, but I wasn't good enough at it. I was fortunate that, I grew up loving baseball, and I think, seeing the numbers go down, talking to teammates before like Aaron Hicks and CC Sabathia, those guys are out there trying to build the programs from the inner cities. And it's not just African Americans. It's not, it's a game that encourages the greatest players, no matter race, country, any of that stuff. And, I think it's something that needs an initiative that needs to grow, but hopefully the foundations are set and can grow the game here, in the near future, within the next 5-10 years.
I'll say the same thing for the front office too. I mean, AJ, Kenny Williams for a long time, and he was always very vocal about that. He's like, we need more black executives in Major League Baseball too.
Agreed. I mean, we need the best candidates and the best people and the best athletes to try baseball out. And I think Major League Baseball, as much as we do say bad things about Major League Baseball, they've done a great job, I feel like, with this, getting the word out there with the RBI program and some of the other things that they do. And I think you'll start seeing an uptick in that. I know if you look at a lot of these initiatives, are now aired on on MLB Network. They're aired on the internet. They're aired all over the place. And the more exposure you get for these events, the more people will want to participate, the more people will come and play baseball. And I think, again, we don't say this often about Major League Baseball, but this is one of the things that they have done a great job with, is getting exposure out and getting people from different demographics and all over the place to play baseball and to learn to fall in love with baseball.
Yeah, good call. Absolutely. So more questions and more conversation here on MLK Day with some of our guests coming up. Stay tuned for that. Let's charge the day at Mound. Now, unfortunately, over the weekend, guess how many significant signings there were? 0. But with
not unfortunate. Not unfortunate. That's good.
I mean, there is a line for me. I've been with you this entire offseason, Kratz, okay, where you say, hey, let's spread it out. Let's mix in signings here and there. I agree. Here's my line. My line is pitchers and catchers report in a month. Okay. Now, once they report, and I've been through this in the off seasons in the past, the conversation about the hot stove just goes away, and you start talking about who's at camp and who looks good and ready, and start planning out lineups and rotations and all of that. So I do think that once you get to about a month from now, people care less about the free agency and trade conversation. Obviously, they still want players to be picked up, but they kind of start moving on to spring training. So this little window over the next 4 weeks, it would be nice to get most of the rest of the players signed up. And some trades too would be nice. We haven't had that many trades either, which that has nothing to do with you can't do the Scott Boras has all the free agents, or certain free agents are asking for too much. Some of the front offices are so they overdo it. They're so tedious. They don't just say, you know what, I really want this player. I'm going to target this player and I'm going to go get him. I know it's not that easy, but I don't know. I just think some front offices are soft. They're just not aggressive enough.
Yeah. I mean, they're not, and maybe their window will close. Or maybe, the teams that didn't go in, I think of the Reds really didn't go in at the trade deadline. The waiver deadline they did, but the trade deadline, they didn't really go in. And to me, maybe as an outsider, I look at it and I say, well, maybe the front office doesn't believe that this is their time, that this is their season. Now is their season. You're going to lose this opportunity, and we talk about it all the time. You have to strike while the iron's hot, and you have to have your guys that are out there that you're like, I want to go get Jesus Luzardo. If we're the Reds, I don't need him. I think I have Lodolo. I think I have, Andrew Abbott. So maybe I don't need a lefty. That's fine. But you got to make incremental adjustments. And on a team like the Reds, Orioles, start me with the Orioles, but you got to make a big splash because this is the time.
Yeah, and you have people right now in the chat already. The last thing that was just said, Orioles need to make some moves. Yeah, they do. And we're going to talk to Ken about this coming up because he wrote about the Orioles a little bit in his recent note column. So, AJ, for me, there's an obvious fit. And the White Sox don't have to trade Dylan Cease right now. So I don't know what the backup plan is for the Orioles, and maybe that is someone like Jesus Luzardo. I also think the Marlins are freaking crazy for trying to trade one of their young starters who still has 3 years left of control. I understand what they have to do, but they're not the Orioles. The Marlins aren't just loaded with pitching prospects and young starters. They've got a nice young rotation, but the Orioles, in my mind, actually are jammed in terms of what their position players look like. They don't have enough spots for everyone, so it makes sense for them. It's not going to kill them to make a trade. For the Marlins, if you take away Jesus Luzardo because you need to add a bat, I mean, you're going to subtract run prevention to add to your offense, and it's only because they can't buy any players because apparently ownership this year for the Marlins said we can't spend money anymore.
True. I don't know. This one doesn't make sense to me why they would trade Jesus Luzardo. He's still cheap. And with Sandy Alcantara out for the year, Braxton Garrett, I don't know where Yuri Perez is sitting, but they need starters. And Jesus Luzardo really picked it up for them, especially the second half last year. So he's someone I was excited to see. I mean, listen, you said they don't have a lot of prospects. Maybe they're thinking they can flip him into 4 or 5 prospects at the top of their system, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. The thing, we've talked about this, and I've talked about this before, is these teams talk themselves out of these players. Instead of just saying, hey, let's go get Dylan Cease or Corbin Burns if he's available, or Cody Bellinger or whoever that'll make my team better. Oh, well, I'd rather keep, Erik Kratz Jr. down in A-ball because he might turn out to be a star 5 years from now instead of going to get the established major league player. That's, to me, as a fan looking at it, is like, man, these teams need to, prospects are prospects, but they're only prospects until they turn into suspects, and then you need them to turn into players. So at some point, these prospects need to turn into players, and if you can trade some of them to get established major league players, you can always find more prospects. The international signing day today, right? You can go sign 1 million guys from Latin America and all over the place for a lot cheaper, and you can go find more players. So to me, it's just don't be scared to make the move you need to make your team better, because, again, I wish all teams would try.
Yeah. It's very simple. And on that topic, while we have 2 minutes here too, International Signing Day, we have a few notables that we'll throw out there. We're not going to act like we're the experts on this, but we will get some prospect experts to help us out at some point. These also are players that are very young and extremely far away from the big leagues. You probably won't see most of these players until about 5 years from now. So sometimes I think the MLB draft gets shipped because people are like, well, I'm not going to see these guys for years. I'm like, not the case anymore, especially with a college player. I'm like, you watch Paul Skeens' star. I'm like, he's going to be up or should be up with the Pittsburgh Pirates the following season. I'm like, and the same case with Wyatt Langford, who's going to be on the Texas Rangers at some point in the 2024 season. Now, if you don't want to pay attention to international signings, that's okay in my mind, because a lot of these players are 17 years old. So let's start with the Mets. They've signed Vladi Miguel Guerrero. And so this is now potentially a third Vladi Guerrero that could be joining Major League Baseball at some point. Outfielder, first baseman. Scouts say physical left-handed hitter, potential to hit in the middle of a lineup. Scouts noting pitch recognition and bat speed as a plus skill. That makes sense in the Guerrero family, the bat speed and then the pitch recognition. If you're Vladi Jr. in the big leagues right now, that makes sense, because that's been the big difference, of course, with Vladi Jr. and his father, Vladi Sr., who swung at everything but could get his bat to make contact with basically any baseball, even if it was significantly outside of the strike zone. But anyway, I mean, cool picture here, I would say, Kratz, to see Vladi Miguel and what could be for the Mets in, 2028?
I mean, I don't have any idea what year he could make it up. I just look at pictures like this, and AJ and I both have boys now of this age. And I know my son, I'm pretty sure AJ's son wants to play in the big leagues, and it's a goal of his life. And I look at these guys, and I look at Vladi Miguel right there. He's not as big as his dad, but standing next to the grown man that's next to him, I'm assuming one of the scouts that signed him, I'm like, this is a full-grown man. Like, he looks like Vladi Jr., the one that's in the big leagues. And I'm sitting there going, I know my son is not a small man, and I know he will grow, but I look at him, I'm like, holy cow, no wonder these guys are doing what they can do at the age that they're doing it at and signing a contract. I'm sure it's a awesome day for the Guerrero family.
Can I just give you a contrast before we bring in Ken? So Jose Perdomo is the big signing for the Atlanta Braves. He does not look like he's 27
See,
years old.
Closer. That's closer for me.
Hey, Braves fans, here's your future. I mean, it's awesome, but he's 17 years old. Venezuelan shortstop Jose Perdomo. He's number 3 on Pipeline's top 50 international prospects. Just signed a $5 million, which is around, I think, the limit, because that's the other thing now. International signings are limited. It's not the Yohan Moncada days where they would spend like $30 million on a signing bonus or more.
He looks like he'd come over to my basement, like all my buddies' friends, and drink all the juice boxes, drink all the sodas that are out, the LaCroix that are out of the basement fridge, and then eat some chips and leave. Like that's what he looks like.
Play video games with your son.
Yeah,
hang out.
They'll get on some Apex, they'll get on some Fortnite, whatever it is, and then they bounce and they lift because they're all on the gains right now.
All right, we'll step away from international signings. Let's bring in FT Senior Insider Ken Rosenthal right now. Ken, we were just talking a few minutes ago about your notes column, and wait, hold up.
Whoa.
We gotta stop for a second. Hold up.
Let's go.
Wow. AJ Pierzynski,
just
your
delivered.
thoughts? Just delivered. It looks fantastic. AJ?
Does he travel with that thing?
No.
That is tremendous. Good for
Why
you,
not?
Ken. You one-upped us all.
That is fantastic, Ken. Wow, that threw me off in a good way. So
well,
great to
thanks
see you.
To you guys, I didn't exactly come up with it, so let's give credit where credit's due. It's all like I went to the store and said, "Let's do this."
Of course you did, because you know how I know you did that, Ken? Your head fits perfectly in the little V that's there. Just whatever.
I'm always thinking about pictures, AJ. Thinking about making you happy, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's on his mind. I'm
if
sure
only other people in this world would do that, Ken, it'd be a much better world.
Oh, for sure.
Well, anyway, if you're listening to the pod, check out the YouTube version of the show. It's a great look of the foul and fair territory logos. Okay, let's get to business. So we read your notes column from over the weekend. We started talking about the Orioles and Dylan Cease, which we talked about quite a bit, and mixing in a little bit of Jesus Luzardo as well. If the Orioles don't pull, I get it on the side of, hey, if they don't have to trade Cease or Luzardo. If the Orioles don't do anything at all this offseason, I mean, obviously we know what the fan reaction is going to be. Is this still the team to beat? And do you think they internally are feeling heat to have to do something on the trade front?
They would like to. I would put it that way. I don't know that I would call it heat because they're still going to have a very formidable team. Whether it's the AL East champion or not, again, I don't know. But even without another starter, they've got Bradish, Rodriguez, and John Means, and they've got Tyler Wells and Dean Kramer and DL Hall. They have bodies, people who can do it. And two of those guys, Bradish and Rodriguez, are front of the rotation types. But they still haven't replaced Kyle Gibson's 192 innings from last year. And we all know they entered the offseason looking for an ace. That is the one thing this team needs the most. They addressed the loss of Felix Bautista by signing Craig Kimbrell, but they still are looking. Now, there are a couple of ways to look at this. They have this loaded farm system. Why don't they just give the White Sox what they want? That's, of course, one way to look at it. The other way is, hey, if no one is getting Dylan Cease, and certainly there are 28 other teams that want him as well, for the most part, because he's affordable to everyone, then maybe the White Sox price is so high that he's not getting traded, and you really can't fault the Orioles if no other team pulls this off. I don't know where exactly this is going to fall, but if they open the season with the current group, which I imagine they would supplement with a James Paxton or a Mike Clevenger, someone in the second tier, it's okay. It's just not what it could be. And then you say, well, there's always the deadline, and that's true. But the problem with the deadline, and actually an Orioles person explained this to me, this time of year, teams like the Yankees and Dodgers can sign free agents. They can sign Yamamoto. If you're the Dodgers, you can sign Stroman. If you're the Yankees, no big deal. Come the deadline, there's no free agent market. Everyone is focused on the same group of starting pitchers, so the competition is even fiercer. That is the problem that the Orioles would face if they do not get an ace-type pitcher in the offseason via a trade.
Are we making too big of a deal out of it? Because this is the team, exactly the team they have, minus Bautista, that won 100 and some games. Are we making too big of a deal out of it? And if the Orioles don't do anything, don't make a big splash, I'm not saying James Paxton, he's a big leaguer, Clevenger is a big leaguer, so that's not doing anything. Is that a vote of confidence as much as the Reds not doing anything at the trade deadline is a vote of, I'm not sure we're quite there yet?
I would say it's a little of both. They think they're there. I don't know that there's any question about that. And they certainly are deep enough in prospects where they can make a Dylan Cease type trade and still be deep. They've got one of the best farm systems in the game. So the bigger thing for me is they lack what Gibson gave them last year. And Kyle Gibson is not an ace, but Kyle Gibson threw a lot of innings for a younger staff. Now, all of these players are a year older. In theory, a lot of them could get better. But as we know, prospect development isn't always linear. You don't just always see it going like that. So there could be some regressions among some of these players. There could be injuries, of course. And from that perspective, you really want to see them do something. And I'm sure they want to do something. But the way they see it, if the White Sox want player A, B, and C, and it's just too much, they're not going to do that just to do it. And then the consequences will be what they are, if they are at all. Let's face it, this division is kind of interesting. The Yankees are unquestionably better, but are they this complete, wonderful team without questions? No. The Red Sox, they have yet to make their major moves, in my opinion. The Blue Jays have not made major moves, and the Rays are kind of in between, as they always are. They've traded Glasnow, they've done a couple of things, but are they as good as they were last year? I'm not sure. So from that perspective, the Orioles might be okay. They don't look at it that way. No team does. No team says, well, the rest of the division is not so good. We don't have to do anything. They want to be better, but The demand for these starting pitchers right now in trade is high. The prices are high, and it's difficult to pull off. Let's face it, guys. The only starting pitchers, the only ace-type pitchers traded this offseason, one was Chris Sale, and the other was Tyler Glasnow. That's it. Shane Bieber staying put for now. Corbin Burns staying put for now. Luzardo, the Seattle starters, all of these guys we've talked about, only Sale and Glasnow have been traded.
Okay, Ken, you might say they're deep. I think they're being cheap. Again, what? Because I mean, they have all these prospects, and they're doubled up on some of them. The one thing that they need, and we know they need, is starting pitchers. They need more depth in their rotation. Yes, the guys Bradish and Means and some of these guys are Kramer. Yeah, they're good, and I think Bradish has a chance to be very good. He was very good for them last year, but they need a bona fide ace starting pitcher where they go out every fifth day and say, okay, we know what this guy's going to give us. This guy takes the ball every fifth day, and he's going to give us 6 innings, give us a chance to win. Not those other guys can't do that, but they need a guy that's established. And if they do that, then I think they're right in this division, not only to win it, but possibly finally advance in the playoffs and make a deep run. If they don't
we're on
do
the
it,
same page here. I totally agree with you. They need that guy. There's not
I mean,
a question in my
go
mind.
go get a Snell. Go get a Montgomery. They have money.
They're not going to do that.
I know, but they should. John Angelos, I know he's sitting at home going $1,
he's not spending that kind of
$2. Have you ever seen Scrooge McDuck where he goes in the hot tub with all the money? That's what John Angelos is doing.
I mean,
right
in
now.
theory, AJ, let's look at it just from a baseball perspective. Money's not involved. If you could sign Blake Snell and you're the Orioles, that's perfect. Left-hander in that ballpark, that works really well. It all makes sense. They're just not in a position in their minds where they're comfortable doing that financially. And that's John Angelos. It's not Mike Elias. I'm sure Mike Elias, the GM, would like to sign a Jordan Montgomery or a Blake Snell. But that's not where they are now. Maybe they'll be there one day. I don't have much confidence in that with this present ownership. But again, that is where they are. So you have to talk realistically about what they might do. And what they might do are the things we're talking about. Cease, Luzardo, etc. And that seems to be difficult to pull off. Now, maybe you overpay. And teams today are so reluctant to do that. They all hoard their precious prospects. If ever there was a team that could do it, it's the Orioles. And as I wrote, if they hold all of these kids, they may ultimately regret it because they may not be able to get the pitcher that they want in a trade ultimately.
We kind of follow the same narrative of the Cease, Burns possibly, Bieber possibly. I think they're both going to stay where they're at. Luzardo kind of hopped in there. Is there a chance we see, and I'm just going to give you 2 examples, of a Wheeler on his last year and a Max Fried on his last year? Those 2 teams, the Phillies and Braves, looking at a Jordan Montgomery and a Blake Snell. If extensions don't happen, is there a chance teams could say, hey, you know what? We'll trade this guy so we can sign this guy since we don't see us re-signing. Is there not examples of that, but is there opportunities for teams that could possibly strike in that sense and really like shake up the market?
It's a great question, Eric. I hadn't even thought of it that way, but I don't see it. The Phillies want to extend Wheeler. He's been a success in Philadelphia. Not every pitcher, not every player can succeed in Philly. So that is something that they clearly are signaling, and I expect that to get done in spring training. Fried is going to be more difficult to pull off, but even if they do not sign him, they're still going to want him on their team. You can make the argument, well, you trade Max Fried and then you go sign Jordan Montgomery, I guess, but then you're playing into Scott Boris's hands too, and I don't necessarily see that happening. So, in my opinion, both those guys stay. It's an interesting thought. And, Eric, we can apply it even to other players. A team maybe trading its closer to sign Josh Hader, right? Along those lines. These things are always possible, and sometimes we see moves along these lines occur, but I don't see it with Fried and Wheeler.
So, Ken, I want to double down on Snell. There's been quite a few comments in the YouTube chat today asking if Boris is overpricing him. I know you covered that a little bit as well recently. So I wonder if it has to do with owners being burned in the past as much as it has to do with Blake Snell because they look and go, well, there's risk and pitchers like this are expensive. Plus, I guess the perfect storm of some teams that are just not spending. This is definitely a down offseason, it seems like, with some teams that just are not interested in spending like they used to. So what do you think this has to do with? More with Snell and the risk and the concern, or the way the market looks at someone like Snell these days?
Both. And certainly he is a fascinating guy in this market right now. He is a 2-time Cy Young winner. The guy is accomplished. Now, in the 4 years between the 2 Cy Youngs, he had a 3.85 ERA, still slightly above league average in those years. And he's not somebody who just stumbled in the years he didn't win the Cy Young. He just wasn't as good. So you look at him and you say, well, the high walk rate, he doesn't go deep into games. All of these negatives are associated with him. At the same time, my goodness, we're not talking about some guy who pulled off the street here. He's a pretty accomplished pitcher. And the point Boris made to me, and every time I write about him making a point, people freak out. But the point he made was that you don't need high volume as a starting pitcher to get paid these days. And the examples he used, and I used in this notes column, were DeGrom, Carlos Rodon, and Tyler Glasnow. None of them are high volume guys. In fact, Snell, in the 4 years previous to this one, pitched more innings than any of those guys did in the 4 years previous to them signing. Now, obviously, Rodon and DeGrom are not great examples of guys who succeeded with their contracts, at least in Rodon's case, and in DeGrom's, not yet. But the point he was making, and the point that some readers got lost here, these guys still get paid. That is what's going to happen with Blake Snell. He's going to get paid. Is Boris overpricing him? Of course he's overpricing him. That's why he's not signed right now. There is going to be, at some point, a happy medium. And I don't know what the number is, and I don't know which team it is. But Blake Snell, I don't expect to sign a pillow contract, put it that way. He's too good. And even with the high walk rate last year, one of the highest in some time, I think since Matt Clement many years ago for a starting pitcher, he pitched to a 1.20 ERA in his last 23 starts or so. He was able to get out of it. You don't like to live that way. I get it, but he is not some bum out there. People are kind of taking Blake Snell a little bit and discounting him a little bit too much from me.
Boris can bring up DeGrom all he wants, but the Rangers did win a World Series last year. So, whatever they spent on DeGrom.
DeGrom is a better pitcher than Snell is. Okay, DeGrom,
of course,
right.
when healthy though.
Yes,
when healthy. Okay, so Snell hasn't figured it out, which I still am amazed. There's not at least 4 or 5 teams just banging down his door, because there's a lot of really good places he could go. San Francisco. It just doesn't make sense. So that's why Boris is now in almost defense mode, which I get, because now he wants to find a place and he has to, and time is running out. But I want to talk about the Rangers. They haven't done much this offseason. They did. Yeah, they won the World Series. Yeah, they did big signings. Yes, they have, DeGrom maybe coming back. Scherzer's coming back at some point. But Jordan Montgomery's still out there. He fit in nicely in them. Are they going to make a move this offseason? Or like we talked about the Orioles, are they just standing pat and saying, hey, here's your vote of confidence. We won last year. We're good for the next 40 years.
They're different than the Orioles because their entire situation is impacted by ownership's view of their regional sports network's future. And they're one of the Bally's teams. They're going to be okay for 2024. They might not be completely whole, but one way or another, they're going to be in a decent position. The question that ownership has, and I would dispute that this is a real problem, but this is the way ownerships view things sometimes, they're worried about 25 and beyond. So they're worried about what things are going to look like in the future. We all know that once all of this gets sorted out, that teams are going to be just fine for the most part. Maybe they won't be quite as fine, or maybe they'll be better off if you're the Texas Rangers and you have a superstar-laden team that can really sell itself direct to consumer. If I were them, I'd go sign Jordan Montgomery. My gosh, they've made a ton of money with the World Series championship, and they're going to make more because the first year after a World Series title is always a big year for revenue. But that's where ownership is right now. Do I expect this to resolve? I'm not sure. And they can say, yes, we're going to be okay even in this particular situation, because it's not just DeGrom and Scherzer. It's Tyler Mahle coming back in the second half as well. They will have a line change at the All-Star break of different pitchers coming in. And beyond that, Heaney and Scherzer and one other, I can't remember who exactly, comes off the payroll after this year. Possibly Nathan Eovaldi. He's the other one. So they should have the flexibility to do this in theory, but ownership right now seemingly wants more clarity on the future RSN revenues. And that, to me, what I understand is what is holding this up.
One more for you, Ken. With the Cubs having their convention this past weekend, getting a lot of questions about what you think the Cubs still could do, because I got to look at the direct quote. Sound like they said they're in like the 4th or 5th inning of their offseason right now. Okay, well, I hope that means that they haven't spent like half the money they're going to spend. They're only going to spend another 50, because this is really the offseason that they should strike. It actually looks like a great opportunity for them, given the talent that's still on the market. And we're having trouble coming up with a number of teams to match with some of these players that are at the top of the board.
They still need another left-handed hitter, even after getting Michael Busch. I thought that was an interesting trade. That was a way to get one left-handed bat into the lineup. Bellinger is the most obvious fit for them. Whether it happens or not, who knows? Beyond that, they've got Imanaga now for the rotation. Ideally, would you like to see them add a little bit more? Yes. They're replacing Stroman. Who knows if Imanaga will be what Stroman was for them last year? You'd probably have to bet against it, at least for the first half of the season, when Stroman was an all-star. So it was encouraging to hear Hoyer say that, in my opinion. And I don't think he meant, Scott, that they've spent half their money. He meant that these things are still evolving and they could still make another trade. Their system is rather deep. They could still even sign a couple of free agents. So I'm interested to see what they're going to do here, but I would expect that indeed they are not done.
Okay, good. You made everyone, or at least the people that care in our chat, feel a little bit better right now. So, and
I hope.
more
I mean,
information.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we don't
Obviously,
know,
I don't know
right?
what's going to happen, but when he says that, what he means is we're still trying to do things. We still want to accomplish certain things. One left-handed hitter is not enough. They definitely want more than that. Bellinger, again, looms as that guy, but we'll have to see how that plays out.
Be careful
Yeah,
with rain out.
What?
Be careful with rain out. 5th inning, the game's official. He said they might be only in the 4th or 5th inning. The off season ends. All of a sudden, they get a rain out. He
Or
gone.
blizzard.
You're
No,
right.
my
Or
question-
Blizzard.
But here's the thing, Ken. Is this going to be like the full throttle comments, the Red Sox? Because what happens if they don't sign anybody else? Then the fans are all going to say, oh, what happened to the 4th or 5th inning? There was so much more to come. I mean, everyone's using the full throttle against the Red Sox and Craig Breslow. So could this come back and bite them? Why say anything? Just say, hey, we're evaluating stuff. I mean, we all want them to be honest, but at the same time, this is why owners now pre-screen questions, and this is why teams don't have Fan Fest, because fans now remember all this stuff and they hold them against the fire.
I would imagine that before Jed Hoyer said that, he knew what he was doing and he knew where they stood on multiple fronts, and he is confident that they're going to get some things done. It's different than the full throttle remark. The full throttle remark was about a team that has not been full throttle for several years and suddenly was going to change the way it did things, was going to go hard for free agents again, and really has not, to this point, done that. With the Cubs, basically what he's saying is not full throttle, but we've got more things to do. And I would expect that that's going to happen. It's not like they're going to get shut out here.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, there's too many players left, too. It's not like we're talking about 1 or 2 players. Like, there are significant names. We didn't even get to the DHs that are still available on the market, too, and there's some pretty big names there. Maybe we'll get to that. Yeah, big names. JD Martinez, Justin Turner, Jorge Soler, etc. Much more from Ken on the logo at the top there. Fair Territory, which there it is, airs tomorrow. You'll get the edition tomorrow on Tuesday. And also look out for Ken's tweet later today asking for Grillin' Ken questions. So, Ken, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. And we'll look forward to Fair Territory tomorrow.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. AJ, are you jealous now that you don't have sweet fancy logos like that?
You know what? You should move in with Ken, and then you guys can do it from the same logo.
Okay, cool. I think it's
AJ
cool.
has a
I think it
silver
looks good.
slugger. He doesn't need.
I got world championship belts. I don't need a sign.
Yeah, you got plenty of stuff.
You know, listen, besides, I mean, look, I got this hat. What else can you want?
That is true. Well, you should wear it that way more so we can see it. I think it's great branding. It looks good. You got a little, baseball it up. That's fine.
Wait, Fernando Rodney style.
Yeah, I like that. Let's do a little That's What He Said to continue on that Cubs quote, so I can actually quote it directly this time because we do have it. So Jesse Rogers put the tweet out Cubs president Jed Hoyer on ESPN 1000 said, quote, "We're in the 4th or 5th inning of our offseason." I think that's super promising to hear if you're a fan. I get what you're saying, Fernando. If you hear Boston Red Sox fans pissed off because of the Full Throttle comments, and then we're finding out behind the scenes that they're cheap as fuck. But for Cubs fans, I do genuinely believe that Jed Hoyer is one of those meticulous GMs, which can piss people off. But I do think he is going to get a price that they like for one or two more significant names. Do you not agree?
No, he said that knowing they already have Cody Bellinger, Reese Hoskins, and Jordan Montgomery signed. So that's why he's like, oh, we're only in the 4th or 5th inning. Because if you don't say that again, if it comes back and they don't sign any of these guys, which I cannot see them not signing at least one of them, then all the fans are going to be like, you lied to us, you liar, Jed, you're a liar. Instead, he's like, okay, in the back of his mind, he's like, I know we have the payroll flexibility to at least get one of these dudes.
And they should. Who has signed already that's like, oh, man, I thought the Cubs were going to get that guy?
Ohtani.
No.
Yamamoto, Imanaga, they did sign.
No.
I don't think the Cubs said anything definitive until pretty much this past weekend.
And I love that he said it. I love Cashman's comments. I love teams who are as open as they can be. I don't like vague statements. We're going to try, it's a numbers thing. We're going to go to Chicago with the 26th best that we can find out there, whether free agency or trades. No, I love that he said it. 4th or 5th inning, and I hope they don't have a rain delay.
Also, keep in mind, this is not like rigid corporate America, even though many owners treat it that way now. This is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be at least somewhat transparent. And I know, AJ, you were referring to how there's some fan fests that are going away. There's questions being screened. I mean, that's garbage. This is supposed to be for fun. I just don't understand why teams are really isolating fans to some extent. That's why I give a lot of credit to Jed for saying something like that. Like, listen, we haven't done much yet, but we got more coming.
It is fun, Scott, when it's not your money they're spending.
Yeah, but even so, I mean, transparency is good if you're cheap as hell. Like, if you're the Orioles, say, listen, our payroll is sub $100 million these days. We are not spending much. We're making a lot of money. I'm having a great time. I just went on vacation and I was able to, fly a really big ass private jet because I don't have to pay like I used to, like my dad paid, right? I'm just having a good time with it and our team's good. I tanked for 6 years. Who cares? That was the past. If he said that, at least there's transparency.
Say that and see how blasted you would get. I mean, just come on. You know what, though? I wish John Angelos would say that instead of saying nothing. At least if he says that, you can at least rip his ass. Right? I mean, if Fisher comes out and says nothing, you can't really do anything. You just kind of make assumptions about what he's thinking. But if you actually come out and say it, then you get your ass ripped, and that's what owners don't want. That's why they pre-screen these questions. That's why they're canceling FanFest. That's why they're, it's because everything needs to be so corporately answered and so, just held in such a A to B situation in a straight line. There's no wavering. I miss the old days when, Mike Ilitch with the Tigers would be like, oh, Prince Fielder's out there? Oh, fuck it. Here's $200 million. We'll sign him. We'll take our shot with him, add him to our lineup with Cabrera and the rest of these guys. But the owners, there's very few owners that do that these days, and that's why you see some of these free agents getting held out because these owners are waiting for their price to come down.
Kratz, I found the word I'm looking for. Calculated. Everything is calculated. A trade, a signing, a word coming out of a mouth that belongs to a team. Super calculated.
And they're corporate, like AJ said. They're corporate in the sense it's a local product that is spread, that is handled corporately sometimes. Not everybody, but the teams that don't handle it with that, feeling like have some feel. Don't charge to get into your fan fest. It is the fan fest. You want this team, you're investing your time and resources right now into the fans that are going to build and grow this fan base locally. Not you know what? I heard these people charge to get into Fan Fest. Well, we're doing it so we keep the riffraffs out, the people who just want autographs and stuff. Well, the people that want autographs, they're the ones that are paying to get in. The fans are the ones that want to meet and have a life-changing experience that makes you become a Pirates fan, makes you become an A's fan, makes you become an Angels fan. You go to Fan Fest to possibly rub elbows with real big league baseball players. And my last thing is you talk about the 6 years of tanking. Don't even talk about the value of the organization after that 6 years because they all just keep going up. What about that 6 years that you just saved all that money? It's not like you were pumping it into the minor leagues. Your minor leagues cost the exact same. Like, dip into that treasure chest. Or were you just pocketing that the 6 years? And it's like, well, we're not sure. Kind of like with the Rangers. Like, well, we're not sure what's coming up next. Everybody in life isn't sure what's coming up next. You're not sure if you're going to have a job. Like, how is it any different for a team?
Also, as Maury Brown told us last week, and that's a good pod if you want to listen to it, it's out there, or if you want to watch it, it's on our YouTube channel. Teams knew that the TV money was going to change and might ebb and flow a little bit too. It's a deal, just like anything else is a deal. It's ridiculous. Let's stay on the Cubs for a sec, though, because Shota Imanaga did have his press conference too since we had our last show, and he nailed it.
I want to hear AJ do it.
Hey, Chicago. What do you say? Cubs gonna win today.
I hate that fucking song.
That's exactly.
I'm running through a wall
Nice
for
to
that
meet
guy.
you. I'm Shota Imanaga. I played Yokohama DNA Bases 8 years. I'm very happy to be here and be a Cub. I want to say thank you to entire Cubs organization for having me, and I'm very excited to pitch at Wrigley Field. I'm looking forward to meeting fans and teammates.
Give me
Go,
a fucking
Cubs,
bat.
go.
I want a bat right now. I want a bat. I want a bat. Let's go. Worst song ever. I know that it was made for a reason, but still the worst, stupidest fucking song ever.
Yeah, but classic AJ just ruined the moment for everyone. This is a national show. Dude, come on. If that's your teammate and he sang whatever, song that doesn't
He
exist
wouldn't be
for
my
the White
teammate
Sox,
because I wouldn't play
okay.
for them.
But if he was at his press conference and he obviously is not fluent in English and he prepared himself like that to endear himself immediately to fans, have some words prepared in English, which is not easy, I'm sure, I would want to run a wall or through a wall.
No,
for
it was
guy.
cool. Listen,
That
it was
guy's
cool.
got
He just
me
didn't
pumped
have
up
to
in
sing
winter.
the song. It was cool. You know what he should have done?
You're
Should have
such a
draped
clown.
himself in the L flag and walked out there, had the Emus Cthulhu hat on. It says how many years it's been. And then he really could have endeared himself to Cubs fans. I mean, listen, it was cool. It was cool that he did it. Listen, if I was a Cub player, I'd be like, oh, this is pretty cool. But at the end of the day, can he pitch or not? That's what I want.
And William in the chat goes, I think Shota gets absolutely shelled. Well, that's a different story. That's a different story. And the opinions are all over the freaking map in terms of what he's going to be on the mound. But come on. I mean, Kratz couldn't even control himself just now. He wants to freaking come back to the bigs just to catch this guy.
Just so I can catch his bullpens.
Yeah.
I just want to be out there, watch Jan Gomes catch, and I'll just watch from the dugout. I mean, what more can a guy who's not the front end piece, it's not the ultimate signing by the Cubs, what more can he do to endear himself to the fans? Like, to me, we talk all the time about teams not selling themselves to fans. This dude just sold himself to fans, and Cubs fans should be happy with this signing. Happy, not ecstatic. They're expecting more, yes, just like they should be happy if he has a 4 ERA, anywhere between a 4 and a 4.25, they should be super excited about the piece that they just signed. And I think him doing that, it goes a long way. 1, for me, because he's kind of trolling AJ the whole time he's singing it. 2, because I'm sure it was really tough, but you could tell he put the effort in to do it.
No, it was fine. But you know what? As one of my former managers once said, give me a motherfucking bat against that motherfucker. I'm going to take that motherfucker deep.
Are you referring to New Angel skipper Ron Washington, who's joining us right now on FT Live?
Maybe.
How was that impression?
Awesome. Yes. Awesome. That's all that is being in the presence and believing in yourself. And, if you got belief, you can handle anything. And I just be feeling like I can handle anything.
The greatest speech giver I ever played for, right there, Ron Washington. I mean, he'd give us some meetings that were unbelievable. I mean, you want to talk about wanting to run through a wall? He starts talking, you run through a wall for that man.
And I only speak what other people put inside of me. That's all. I just want you guys to have it and feel it just like I feel it.
Wash, I know you're at home right now, and thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
Are you incredibly anxious right now to get to spring training and get things going? You've been waiting for this moment to be back at the helm to run a team for too long.
Yes, I am incredibly ready. I just left Arizona. I just got in last night. I was down at a mini camp down there, and I had a ball just watching those young kids each and every day develop. And, the first day it was raggedy. The second day it got better. The third day it got better. The fourth day it got better. And that's what it's about. There's three things that you want to have happen. You want to get better. That's it. You don't want to be worse, and you certainly do not want to stay the same. So they got better, and I was impressed with that.
You think the kids in the game right now, because you just saw some young kids down at camp in Arizona, you think they're too soft? From the time that you've been playing to managing to coaching, do you think they're too soft in the sense of that competition, like being the best that they can be that day?
Well, majority of them are the best they are where they come from, and they really never had to play against anything when they was coming up. So I just think it's the environment that they come from. I think it's the people that they're around and how they develop them as players. I think that has quite a bit to do with it, because I came in as a 16-year-old and I didn't care who was in front of me. I was going to destroy him, or he was going to destroy me. But that attitude today in the game is not there because they're not being taught that attitude. I was taught that attitude, and I had to have that attitude on the ball fields that I played on and the parks that I played on and the neighborhoods that I were in. So it certainly has a lot to do with your upbringing. It has a lot to do with the people you're around that's teaching you the game of baseball. All of that come into play. But soft, I wouldn't say they're soft, but I would say that they're certainly lacking what it takes to deal with adversity and get through it. You certainly have to help them a lot in this game to get through adversity.
So, Wash, let's get to your current ball club right now. I mean, now that you've had some time to digest what your roster looks like, what stands out? And even more specifically, have you been able to have specific conversations that you feel are making a difference heading into camp with some of the players that you're about to manage?
Yeah, I feel like I'm having some meaningful conversations. Matter of fact, tomorrow morning, I'm flying out of here to Houston to go and meet with Rondon, myself, Bo Porter, and EY. So we've already talked with Trout. I've already had conversations with a few other guys. It was just fun to be down in Arizona the last 4 days, just to watch what our minor league system is like and see the culture down there and the structure down there, the way they showing these young kids how the game come together. So I'm looking for the same thing. I did tell those kids the last speech that I gave to them that I thought I was going to have to take the culture from up top and send down, but look like I got to take the culture from down here and bring it up there.
What is the culture? What is the culture, Wash? Because all you see is what we see in the media, right? From the Angels.
Yeah.
They haven't been to the playoffs in forever. They haven't won a playoff game in forever. So what is the culture? How are you, as the new manager of the Angels, going to bring your culture to what has been there for the last 15 years?
Attitude, commitment, effort, belief, all of those type of things right there. Loving on each other. And I'm not talking about no kisses and hugging. I'm talking about caring about one another, helping each other through struggle. Those are the type of things that create a culture. And this is what I've seen those guys down in the minor leagues, the young kids, was being given through the coaching staff down there, how to care about one another, how to believe, how to have attitude, how to go out and develop work ethic, those type of things. And once you get those type of things going in the right direction, the culture really take care of itself. And structure, you got to have structure. Every day you come to the ballpark, there got to be some kind of plan that you have to get better for everyone every single day. every single day for everyone. And then now you got structure. And once you develop the structure and you got some culture, now you're just talking about consistency, being consistent at the game, being able to do what the game asks you to do on every single day. There's nothing that the game can show us that we will not be ready for. Again, that's structure and culture.
Is there anything different that you're going to talk to Rendon about when you go to meet with him? He played in 43 games last year. Like, you talk about consistency, like consistently out on the field. Is there something specific that you're meeting with him specifically to talk about?
No, I'm going to see what he has to say why things went the way they went. I know Rendon. I was in third base coach in Atlanta when he was a third base coach in Washington, D.C. We had a lot of conversations. He just had the injury bug. And he knows right now that health is important. And the conversations that I've been having with him on the phone before I get to Houston to see him has been about his dedication to his health, his dedication to allowing the strength and conditioning guys to give him a program, his dedication to staying on that program. And I'm going to find out from him, when he feel like he need times off. I'm going to find out from him, what he think the reason is why the past few years things haven't gone well around in the Los Angeles area with the Anaheim. And, I'm just going to let him talk. I know what I want, but I'm not going there to badger him on what I want. I'm going there to badger him on what he think we need to do to make things better around this clubhouse. And I know what they need, and they will get that on a daily basis. So that part of it, I'm not concerned about. So I don't need to go there saying what I need out of him other than him being healthy. But I just need him to just commit himself to being healthy. And if he's healthy, Rendon is a winner, and good things will happen.
Yeah, and I know that you've been part of a Braves organization for years in the past that had the same lineup, especially from the infield, every day. Those guys played close to 162. So you're going to go talk to Anthony. What have you gotten from the team perspective, specifically on last year? At the end of last season, it was public. He said he had a fractured, chin, and the team said it was a bruise. Did the team give you any insight on how to kind of help to clear things up since you could be that bridge?
Nope, I don't need the team to tell me what's happening. I have a new vision. Rendon has a new vision. Trout has a new vision. The whole organization has a new vision. Every player that was there the past few years, they got a new vision, and that's where I'm starting. I know what people are saying, but I'm one of those people that I like to see for myself. And I know the type of person that and the type of winning player that Rendon is. I've seen Mike Trout since he was a baby when he first got to the big leagues. I managed in Texas, so I know what he got to bring to the table. All I want them to do is get back to just being who they are. They don't have to be take the team and put on their back, because everybody on that team going to pull their weight. And if they can't pull their weight, they're not going to be on that team. It's just that simple. So, nope, I'm just excited to be in the position that I am in, and I'm excited to go hear what Rendon has to say about what he think we need to do to move forward. And whatever he tells me, I'm going to try to implement it along with what I know need to be implemented, along with my coaching staff, knowledge of what need to be implemented. And we're going to come together as one, and we will be powerful.
What is Trout's vision? What is Trout? What is Mike Trout? When you call Mike Trout, how does that phone call go? Hey, Mike, I watched you. I was in Texas, and then I've been third base coach for a while in Atlanta, and I know you're a pretty good player. So, I mean, how does that conversation go? Because explain to me, because if I'm getting a call, listen, if I'm Mike Trout, I want a call.
I didn't need to give him my resume. My resume is already out there. So I didn't need to give him my resume. But what Mike Trout whole pitch to me is he just liked to get back to playing baseball the way he played baseball. Recklessly, with recklessness, abandonment, you know what I'm saying? Taking advantage of the opportunities that's presented by the defensive team and getting back to making certain that he lock in consistently on what he can do offensively and just play the game without worrying about injuries that has been hitting him the past few years. And my comment to that was, well, you're going to be able to do that under my watch. It's just go out there and play. So that's what the conversation was about.
Is there a directive from Perry Minasian that you get when you sign up to be the manager of the Angels? You just said, hey, if you're not holding your weight, if you're not pulling your weight, you're gone. Did he say, well, hey, Ron, I want to make sure you know I'm the one making the decisions? Are they letting you say, hey, you know what? This guy doesn't cut it. He gone.
That type of stuff don't happen on Ron Washington watch, whether he's in Anaheim, Los Angeles, or when I was in Texas, when I was in Oakland, and when I was in Atlanta. No. They know that my whole being is about winning. My whole being is about consistency and respecting the game. That's my whole being. And when I say things like, if you can't hold your weight, you're not going to be here, you take that however you want to. Because if I was a player and a manager told me that, it would go through one ear and right out the other. Because I'm going to hold my weight, no doubt about that. And that's the attitude that I'm planning on bringing to that team. So if something being said like that affect you, then you will be out the door. That's for sure. But do Perry give me some type of mandate? Nah. Perry and I are on the same page. He think like I think. So, and Perry worked for me in Texas, so he know who Ron Washington is. So, no. That's not threats when I say things like that. And that shouldn't affect you if you got yourself together and you got your game together and you're not worried about something. But if you got some kind of weakness, those type of statements will show out. And we're not going to have many weak links around that. That's for sure.
Hey, listen, you were my boss once for a year. And I
Sure
love
was.
playing for you. You were great. I mean, you came and I knew what I was getting every day from you. And then you went 10 years without getting another opportunity to manage, which was always mind-boggling to me. Did you think you would never get another opportunity to manage?
Well, that's negative thinking right there, AJ. I never, you have a little piece of thought that maybe it won't happen for you again, but I never got that negative with myself that an opportunity may not present itself again. And if it didn't, guess what? I was still making a difference. I might not have been a manager, but I was still making a difference where I was and where I've been since I left the managing seat. So, yes, it a little bit of that crosses your mind, but if it's not a part of your mindset, which has never been a part of my mindset, because that's negative thinking, it doesn't bother you. You either do or you don't, you will or you won't. They either give you a chance or they don't give you a chance. But you got to keep yourself relevant and you got to keep making a difference for someone that decide to give you a chance. And the Los Angeles Angels, Art Moreno, and John, and Perry, and the rest of their group thought I was the guy for the job.
Okay, I got to ask because you were on a very special team to me. You were on the 2002 A's, and they made a movie about that team, and you were kind of prominent in that movie. Okay, so one, why was I not prominent in that movie? Because we ended your winning streak and we knocked your asses out of the playoffs that year. So they should have been a movie about us. And then second of all, why did you not hire Scott Hatteberg as your infield / DH first base coach? I know you got Bo Porter and Eric Young and all these guys, but I mean, the way he talked about Scott Hatteberg in that movie, shit, I thought he was going to the Hall of Fame.
Well, Hatteberg should go to the Hall of Fame for the way he played first base, for not ever being out there and having to go through what he went through and having to play with his mind, knowing that, man, I've never done anything like that before. And Billy telling him that he can do it. And I'm telling him it's incredibly hard. But, that's the kind of gamer he was, just like you was, AJ. He's going to take it on. And he's going to do the very best that he can with it. And he did that. The rest ended up being history because he turned himself into a heck of a first baseman. The other part of his game, that's why Billy was after him. And the only part of the game that Hatteberg was concerned about was the defensive side. And to be honest with you, I wasn't worried about it, but I wasn't going to let him know that I wasn't worried about it. I wanted to keep him believing that he had to get out there and he had to grind to get it done. I had no doubt that we was going to be able to turn him into a first baseman. That's why Billy went and got him and brought him there to be a first baseman, because he knew the type of work I can do.
Today's Martin Luther King Day. What does that mean to you as a black man that is done amazing things in this game, in his life, and affected so many people positively. What does that mean? What does this day mean to you?
Well, it means that if it wasn't for Martin Luther King and him fighting as hard as he fought for equality, I may not have this job. I may not have ever gotten a job as a manager in Major League Baseball, period. So it means just that much to me. And he's one of three people that are being celebrated like this. And the other two, Christopher Columbus and Abraham Lincoln and Dr. Martin Luther King. So that goes to tell you right there how special he is.
Hey, Wash, I worked for the league for a while. Do you think that there are other things that could be done, or how would you grade right now the way that we are trying to get more Black players into our sport, and really, of course, into all aspects of our sport? And I mentioned earlier that even includes the front office. But are we doing a good enough job as a game? And if not, what else would you like to see more of? Like, what are you hearing from people when you're at camps?
Well, I'm hearing, number one, this is my personal opinion. You look around the game, and on every major league team where there's Latin players, there's a Latin coach, or there's a Latin advisor. Every major league team has a white coach. Now, people talk about the Black players that are not in the game, but they don't understand. They come from a different background and a different culture. And when they get into the game of baseball, there's a lot of things that's going on in the game of baseball that they just don't understand. And we don't have Black coaches there to help them get through it. So that's where the indifference and the injustice is happening. I think we got to ramp it up, and we got to get Black faces in every part of the game, because we are losing our Black kids because of the culture shock that may hit them when they come from where they come from, and the majority of them are coming from one parent home, and it's usually the mom. So they always been bosses where they come from, and they just don't understand how to take sometimes love that when they're being criticized, that's what it is, and they don't understand it as that. They understand it as, well, this guy is messing with me because of the color of my skin, or this guy is messing with me because I see how he treating other people, or something like that. And need people around, especially other Black coaches around, to make them understand how to deal with that and how to get through that. And until they do that, we're going to have problems. And I'm not saying that they're not opening it up. I'm talking about the people that will be in the front office. I'm not saying they're not opening it up, but there's been more into diversification in the front office than there's been diversification in the player part of it on the field. That's for sure. So that part of it, they starting to get it going a little bit, because when I was down in the winter meeting, I met quite a few Blacks that are a part of a front office and has a huge role in the front office. So, but again, when you look at baseball teams, you don't see a ton of young Black players, and I have to commend Major League Baseball for that Dream Series that they hold every year down in Arizona with these young Black players, because there are some studs down there, and if that's the way they got to get their opportunity. They got to make sure that they continue to get as deep into the inner cities as they possibly can, because they are missing out on a lot of great athletes, even though at that Dream Series they have a lot of young great athletes already, but they're missing out because there are a lot more out there.
Wash, very well said. And I think there's two components when you're trying to get, young athletes involved in a sport, is obviously getting them on the field to play it, but also having them interested in it. So you just said, we got to make sure that we have this game, popular and talked about in the inner cities. Why are we leaving Oakland? You were there for a long time. That's a big ass city. They should have a team.
Well, they should have a team, but they got about 10,000 dedicated fans, but they will have about 50 dedicated fans when they win. It's number one. Oakland is a very poor city. Okay, so you got to give credit to that. They're a very poor city, and not many people can afford a ticket to come to a ball game. And when I was in Oakland, I thought they did a heck of a job reaching out to the communities and trying to bring the kids in of all ethnicity. It's not was just the blacks, it was Mexicans, it was the poor whites, it was everyone that they tried to bring in, but it still didn't do anything to dent the attendance. But when you won, they showed up, and the 10,000 or 11,000 that showed up every night, let me tell you, they were some awesome fans. They were awesome. And to answer a question that AJ asked earlier, when they took us out that year, we wasn't supposed to throw him that pitch that he hit. And we talked about that
Billy
all
Cox
the
throws
time.
one pitch.
We tried to sneak some cheese by a darn rat.
That's right.
And it didn't work.
No, y'all thought I was bunting. That's the problem. Y'all thought I was bunting. You guys thought we were playing small ball. We were playing money ball.
Y'all was playing money ball. And, no. Y'all earned that. It wasn't no surprise, man. The way you guys came up in there and played with a young Torrey Hunter and Jock Jones and Kadire and all, man. No. That wasn't no surprise. You guys came there to play, and y'all beat us. We certainly didn't take y'all lightly. We didn't do that.
Hey, you were talking about your fans out in Oakland. Listen, I've always said, as much shit as the Oakland fans gave me over my career, right? There was no better place to go when that place, even if they had 20,000 fans and they had the marching band out in the outfield and the flags going and that place was intimidating as it got for those fans that were there.
Yeah, they were real fans, man. They were real fans, and I will never forget the years that I spent there. And that's where my first opportunity was given to me to become a big league coach, is in Oakland and that Bay Area. And I mean, we had some tremendous years there. We really did. We may not couldn't have got out of the first round in the playoffs, but we was almost there all the time. And that's the one thing I can certainly be proud of.
Wash, last one from me. So your prior team, the Atlanta Braves, how tough was it to leave them, even though obviously you were like, hey, I'm looking to be a big league manager? And did you see your guy Alex Anthopoulos get locked up to a little lifetime contract recently? He's doing a pretty good job there, huh?
Yes, I did. I talked with him. When it happened, I certainly called him because Alex is a great man. He believed in taking care of all of his people, and he did. He took care of me the times I was there. And behind the scene, a lot of people don't know, I was definitely offered jobs to leave, but I told Alex when I got there, I'm not leaving Atlanta unless I get a managing job. And he would come to me every year and say, hey, this organization called. They would like you to come do this. They would like you to come do that. I said, Alex, I'm not leaving here. And I stayed true to that. And I didn't leave until it was time to manage. And the opportunity for me to manage happened at the right time. It was time for me to go. It was time for those guys to start understanding how to take care of one another, because I'm going to tell you, it was myself and EY and the rest of that coaching staff. Every day they hit that ballpark, we was on top of them. They didn't come in that clubhouse unless somebody was on top of them. And now with two of the most powerful guys they had in that clubhouse gone, now they're going to have to definitely depend on the other coaches that's left and depend on the love and the wisdom, the knowledge, everything that we left behind. It was hard leaving Atlanta, but I have this opportunity to be a part of something special moving forward with the Los Angeles Angels, and I'm ready to dig in and make it happen.
Wash, have you finalized your coaching staff yet? And
got them all now. Yeah, I got Barry Enright.
I was waiting. My phone did. I don't know. You must have lost my number over the years. I don't know.
You look better on TV.
But see now, now when I come into town,
you wasn't ready to give that up to come stand out there.
That's a good point. That's a great point. But just know now, though, when I come into,
if you was ready to do that, you'd have made sure I got a phone call.
That's true.
Everybody else decided it. You'd have been on the phone. Hey man, I want to do this. I want to do that. I didn't hear from you. So I said, don't want it.
That's good. That's fine. That's fair. But I just want you to know now, when I come in town, when you're the third base coach and I come up to you and you're out hitting fungos, you give me a hug and say, good to see you. You can't do that shit no more because you're the manager. So now I get 15 minutes and you got to sit in that office and you got to tell us all the secrets.
And I'm going to enjoy that. You know why? Because the secrets that you're looking for is going to be talking about baseball, and that's what I love to talk about.
That's right.
So, and anything that I can give to you, I will. Anything that I cannot give to you, I will not. I will, and then I will not.
Yeah.
That is
You'll
all
get
we,
enough.
all we
You'll
ask
get
is
enough.
be real.
Yeah.
Be real.
Yeah.
Well, Wash, we cannot wait to see you in camp and to see what you bring to this team. You will be very dearly missed in Atlanta. Great to catch up with you. Enjoy the rest of the short time left in the offseason. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much. And I just, like I said, spent 4 days down in Arizona with those young kids down there, and my juices are flowing. And I found out I better get myself in some kind of shape because I'm a little bit out of shape. But I kept up with them. I just had to pay the price that night when I went back. But each night the pain got less and less. So I got to start getting it together because I only got a couple of weeks left, and I just can't wait to get started.
Hey, you can hang with him. You got more energy than
Record
everyone.
your speech. I want their speech recorded. Someone just send it to me, please.
Ooh,
Get Bo or EY to record your first day speech and send it to me because I'll get fired up.
All right, I will make sure that happens.
All right, thank you.
I don't want it out in the media.
No, just for me.
Yeah,
Just so I can sit there. I'm gonna show it to my son. My
you
son
gotta
will
say
see
off
it.
the record.
My son all fired up, man. Because listen,
Yeah.
I mean, there was nothing. I remember when I was at the Rangers. I'm telling you, I had my locker and I had like Kinsler next to me, and I had like Nelson Cruz on the other side. And you get going, and we just look at each other, and we're like, "Yeah, let's go."
I'll make sure you get a copy of it. I really will.
Thank you, and the best of luck, seriously, Wash.
I got something special planned.
Nice.
And then from that point on, we're gonna go out there and get between those lines and start making some magic happen.
That's right. Go bring some winning back to Anaheim. They deserve it. They need it.
Yes,
you know.
they do.
Thank you.
They
Thank you, Wash. It's great to see you,
thank
man.
you guys
we'll see you
for having
soon.
me.
Cheers.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Thank
God
you.
bless.
You too. You too, Wash. Ron Washington, new manager of the Angels. I think he's going to bring something to that team that's needed. You know, you can't say no. You can't say no to Wash.
No, dude, I'm telling you, he's one of the funniest dudes ever.
I need you on the field. I need you to take care of yourself. How are you going to say no to that?
Listen, he cares. He genuinely cares for. Like when he says he cares, he genuinely cares for his players. He wants all of his players to do well. He doesn't look at different guys and say, "Oh, this guy's this guy's that." He tries to find every little thing he can get out of every player and make him the best at it. And I mean, I was lucky enough to play for him for 1 year, and it was one of my favorite years because he just. What you saw in that interview is what he was like every single day. And it was fun to go to the ballpark and watch him. And, you know, there'd be times when he'd be down in the tunnel. He'd be smoking a cigarette between innings, down, hiding behind, looking out. What's happening? Pete, what's happening? Pete, tell me, what should we do, Pete? And just an awesome, genuine, real human being that cares for other people.
And gives you time. He's not in a rush. Some dudes nowadays, it's like they're rushed. It's like, all right, good. All right, I got to go. And it's like, well, Wash is like there. He's present, which is important too. All right, we got maybe a few minutes, and then Chris Archer is going to join us, so we can swing it back to that's what he said. So on the topic of managers, I figure let's flip it back to another recent quote that we just had from over the weekend. St. Louis Cardinals skipper Ali Marmol, his 2024 message this morning, this was a day or two ago, intention and trust in the St. Louis Cardinals clubhouse will be critical, especially for him. Quote, last year tested my character. Reality is I needed to be better. Last year wasn't good enough. Our staff needs to be better. That starts with me. That's good accountability there because it was a pretty turbulent year in St. Louis. And that included multiple dramatic situations, right? With Tyler O'Neill, I think that was the first week or so of the season. The Wilson Contreras issue, Kratz popped up within the first month or so, from what I remember, and we started to unravel some of that story with Jack Flaherty the other day, who said he felt like the pitching staff in general was kind of placing too much blame on him versus what was actually going on the field. So what do you think of a line like this? Sure, there's a little bit of vanilla ice cream to it. Like, you're not going to be like, last year I was amazing. I did the best job ever as a manager, and my team just sucked. Like, obviously, you're going to take accountability.
He's taking some accountability here. What I want to know is I want to get in the time machine, fast forward to the end of the season. If the Cardinals have the season that we thought the Cardinals were going to have last year, that they were going to win the division, or it was going to be them and Milwaukee. If they have that kind of season this year and they make the playoffs, they win the division, whatever it is it going to shine an even more glaring light on the fact that they were not prepared for Yadier Molina to leave? That the staff kind of rode the coattails of Yadier Molina. I know what he said was kind of a vanilla statement, but there's some truth to that. There's some truth to the fact that they did not set their players, who they have a they had a legitimate team. They were weak in the starting pitching. We all knew they were going to be weak in that starting pitching. But is it show that they needed to do more as a staff, exactly what he said, if they win this year?
I think that's a big part of it, especially when I'm hosting a show on most days with two catchers. So we know where both of you stand.
Hey, you know what we teach at Dr. Phillips High School? Accountability.
Right, and that's what this quote is.
Exactly. Where do you think you learned it from?
Perfect. Yeah, I'm sure he
remembers. He remembers.
Right. The Doc Phillips alum.
Dr. Phillips, Saturday, Tuesday, school of the baseballing.
Facilities first, accountability second, and then everything else. No, I'm just kidding. All right, let's
used to be like that. Not anymore.
No, not with you on staff.
I'm not there. I'm not.
No. This is old school. It's the school.
That's where I went to high school.
Oh, right.
Marmol and I went to the same high school.
Him and Johnny Damon and
all
16 other big leaguers.
That's right. All right, let's bring in a former big leaguer right now and now a part of the team right now, the talk of the offseason. Chris Archer joining us for the first time on FT Live. Chris, great to see you, dude. How's life right now?
Life is good. Bronny, we've been talking for the last few months about getting on here, so I'm happy that I was finally able to jump on with you guys.
Dude, we picked a good day too. So obviously, we just talked to Wash. Let's just start here. It's MLK Day. What does the day mean to you, and also to relate it to baseball? One idea Wash brought up was he said he feels like most teams have Latin coaches. There are not enough black coaches for each team. Do you agree with that?
I mean, I would love to see more representation. But I do understand that it takes time for these things to happen. One thing that I love to talk about are the initiatives, the RBI program, the Dream Series that was just over this last weekend, the amount of Black American players that have been getting drafted the last several years kind of shows MLB's investment into the community is starting. The seeds are starting to be planted. And we're seeing some fruit from those seeds as well. So I like to lean into those ideas more. And I think MLB is doing a good job. So obviously MLK means a lot to the United States. Things aren't perfect, but they're in a much better place than they were in the 50s and 60s when he was doing his campaigning and his march and his speeches. And I can't say I'm satisfied with the state of Black Americans in baseball, but I can see a nice trajectory going forward.
Chris, some of the initiatives we've already talked about, RBI and some of the other things, the Dream Series, all those things you're talking about. But how do we get these kids to play baseball more? I know these series are a nice first step, but how do we actually get in and get them away from football, get them away from basketball, and get them to find the love of baseball that obviously you had at a young age?
Oh man, AJ, that's something I've thought about a lot. I don't know if there's an answer. I think making the game cooler is helping. Whenever I used to backpedal off the mound and kiss my bicep, people would get upset. But now things like that are celebrated, which makes it cooler. But I'll say this, that it's always going to be a challenge because basketball and football, there's more instant gratification, right? You go to a D1 college and your games are on national television on the weekend. If you go to a D1 college in baseball, unless you have the SEC network, you're not really nationally broadcast. It's more regional, like the game of baseball itself. So it's always going to be a challenge because I think a lot of people get enamored with that instant gratification. But AJ, Kratzy, I mean, y'all know, like, even for somebody like myself, I spent 7 years in the minors before I made it to the big leagues. That's a long time. And it just doesn't seem, it's not that enticing when you can go play 2 to 3 years at University of Texas. You can get NIL money, like big NIL money. NIL money is not that big in Division I baseball. It's there, but it's not nearly the magnitude of basketball and football. But you can go to these large programs. You can be seen every single Saturday. And then every single Sunday, once you get drafted, you're going to be seen as well. And it's just not that straightforward. And I think in certain communities, it's more enticing to try to play those sports where you can become famous or monetarily sound or equipped sooner.
Is that why you signed on with the Dodgers now for instant gratification? Like you're like, oh, Shohei? Okay, Yamamoto? Yeah, I'm a go over here now.
Well, that's funny. That's a great pivot. You guys are getting good at TV. Kratzy, you're getting good at TV, bro. But no, like the process with me started in the summer. I went to Andrew Friedman's house and we were talking through next steps. I have a lot of respect for Andrew Friedman. He was the GM when I was in Tampa. I signed a deal in 2014, which is crazy that that's 10 years ago now. But I signed a deal and I worked directly with him on that deal. And throughout my time there, we collaborated a lot. It's somebody I trust, and I said, hey, like this is what I'm thinking. And he's like, hey, I've done this with other guys before, and he named a couple guys, Gabe Kapler, Rocco Baldelli, amongst others. And he said, hey, I've done this before. Let's put you on the path to be well-rounded in the sport. So if you want to manage one day, you can. If you want to be in the front office one day, you can. If you want to put the uniform back on in any way, you can. And it just made too much sense. It had a lot to do with the brand, obviously, of the Dodgers. But after that conversation, I went to Instructs and I saw how they run their farm system. I've been a part of 3 or 4 other teams, whether it be in the minor leagues or the major leagues. And I've never seen an operation like that. I've never seen the level of care. I've never seen the amount of resources. And I don't want to overshare, but I spoke to a couple other clubs, and it just made so much sense with the relationship I have with Andrew Friedman, the amount of flexibility and curiosity that they were going to allow me to satisfy, and the fact that it is the Dodgers. We know that the Dodgers, if you don't think they're number 1 baseball organization, then you think they're number 2. And I think there's all pros. I'm going to learn so much. And I'm going to be able to give as well because I'm looking forward to working with some of the younger guys.
All right, so let's go back to 2010 when we were in the pre-Mundial together and you were like 21, 22 years old. Now to 2024, can't believe it's been 14 years since we played together. What is 2010 Chris Archer telling 2024 Chris Archer because you weren't a big leaguer at that point. We were on Team USA together. You dominated Cuba that had Jose Abreu on it. You struck out like 10 of the like 12 dudes that you faced. It was incredible. But what is the 2010 Chris Archer telling the 2024 Chris Archer that's now starting a new focus? Like, you wanted to be a big leaguer. What does 2024 Chris Archer want to do as he's starting this new focus, new career?
Kratzy, that's a good question. I've actually no one ever asked that type of question. They usually ask, what would the 2024 version ask the younger version? Yeah, so just off the top of my head, and you did a lot of this, and I know that TV is your thing, but I could definitely see you, leading a team in some way, probably in that top spot in the dugout. But being able to take the things that I've learned and excuse me, have empathy for that 2010 version, right? That 21, 22-year-old. I mean, I did well that game, but the game before that, I pitched against the DR, who had like a 38-year-old Tony Bautista who took me deep. So it's more about channeling, that wide open stance. I hung a slider, like I did him a favor, right? Like there's no reason I should be even throwing the guy a breaking ball, like. But anyways, it's going back and thinking, okay, yes, there's a lot of success, but how do we handle adversity? How do we get here? And remember, there's going to be bumps along the way. So the younger version of myself is going to have to remind the 35-year-old Chris Archer, be patient. You're working with 21-year-olds. They just got promoted to this level. Success isn't instant. I think we get caught up sometimes, like if a guy gets called up to the big leagues or gets called up to a new level, double A, triple A, whatever it may be, and we forget that it takes time to develop. Like the minor leagues is very developmental. So I'll have to, Mike Trout was on our team, and I'll have to remind my younger self, will have to remind my older self. Even Mike Trout, when he got to the big leagues, he got demoted. I don't know what the reason was. I don't know if Torrey Hunter got hurt and it was just a temporary 10-day IL type situation, and or if he hit 100 and they didn't think he was ready. But I'm always going to try to keep at the forefront of my mind that this is developmental and not to be too harsh or rash or quick to evaluate one way or the other, good or bad.
Chris, you mentioned you're working for Andrew Friedman. Do you ever yell at him for trading you to Pittsburgh? Say, why didn't you just leave me in Tampa Bay? You could have just kept me in Tampa Bay forever. I mean, do you ever go up to him and say, why? Now you got Tyler Glass now, one of the guys you were traded for. So, I mean, I would be like, hey, Andrew, why'd you trade me?
So he had already gone to the Dodgers at that point.
Oh, okay.
Nah.
That's why he's
Yeah.
signing on.
Yeah, it was different.
But I
GM.
will
That was
say-
Neander.
Oh, it was Neander.
Yeah, it was Eric Neander. But I will say this, I signed my contract like with Joe Madden as the manager. Andrew Friedman was the GM. They had that clause similar to what Shohei has. Joe had a clause in his contract, if the GM leaves, then I can leave. So they both left after the same year that I signed, 2014. By the time we got to September, they were both gone. And one reason why I respect Andrew is because, he circled back as he was moving out. It was later. It may have been like early 2015, like January or something. We sat down and, we had a conversation about it, and it was man to man. It wasn't like he hid from the situation, and that really helped me learn the business aspect. Certain things can be one way today, and 6 months from now they can change. And I'm not saying I always handled baseball business perfectly, but one reason why I respect Andrew is because the transparency and his willingness to sit down with me after he traded me, after signing a deal with a completely different team, as far as leadership.
Hey, Chris, I want to ask you about playing days and why you decided this was the time. Can you give us the play-by-play of what was going on in your brain over the past whatever amount of time it's been that you started to think, hey, I'm going to move on to the next chapter of life in baseball and my career?
Yeah, I think it boils down, and these guys on here know, I think it boils down to just like health. My body just didn't feel great, and the competition was no longer me versus the batter. A lot of it was internal, just kind of fighting some injuries and fighting some stuff that was just inevitable. It was like I just have to push through this. There was nothing that had to be addressed surgically. I wasn't willing to have any more surgeries. I had 3 in 3 years, and that was hard enough. So it just the relationship with playing the game changed a little bit. And for me, my mom, she's not with us anymore, but she told me when you don't love the game anymore, then it's time to hang it up. Well, and I always wanted to play till I was 40 years old. I wanted to be out there like Rich Hill, like 43, 44 years old, still pushing, still a high quality pitcher. But once my body started to fall apart, my relationship with the game changed. Absolutely loved competing. I miss it, but not being able to compete at even like probably an 85% level, it wasn't that fun anymore. The game is way too hard. The guys throw gas now. Their sliders are disgusting. Change up, the arsenals these guys have now, and myself at 85%, it just wasn't the same. And once I started to feel that way, I knew it was time. So I gave it all I had with Minnesota in 2022. It was actually one of my favorite seasons I ever had. That club was amazing. I got to reunite with Rocco from Tampa. Byron Buxton, he was healthy for I think like half of that season, maybe a little bit more. He is the most electric player I've ever seen in my life, and his personality is unbelievable. This guy cares so much. There's so much passion in that guy. And I played with Carlos Correa, which was really, really fun. Um, and the city of Minnesota was really cool. I made some really great friends. So it just felt like after 2022, and I was training in 23, and the offers weren't like in line with what I thought I was worth. I was like, you know what, 2022 was a great year. Do I wanna go out any other way? I felt like it was just the right time. I said a lot of words there, but it just felt like the right time to me. And I knew that I could call some people and get some guidance on what's next. And I was able to lean on several different people, and it landed me with a really good opportunity to learn, grow, and give back to the game.
Chris, it catches up to all of us. Trust me. I mean, eventually, there's nobody that plays forever, and eventually, it catches up to all of us. So, that was a great answer there. And I don't know if you remember this. In 2022, I was doing a game, Minnesota, and there was a rain delay, and I came down and was in the equipment guy, Hot Rod, the equipment guy for Minnesota's office, and you were in there, and I think Dylan Bundy was in there. And I sat down and I never really talked to you. And we were talking a little bit, and you were like, "Man, all we do is go 5 innings. They won't let us go 5 innings." And I think you and Dylan both were like, "We only go 5 innings every time. I want to go deeper." So now you work for the Dodgers. The Dodgers are the king of like scripting the game, only letting pitchers go 5 innings. So if you change your tune now and you're more of an analytics guy where, starters can only go 5 innings.
Well, this is what I'll say about that. If the guy that's on the mound, does not want to go further than that, I don't really want him on the mound. So I want all my guys to have that mentality, even if we don't think that's the right move, right? It may cause a little strife, may cause a little friction, but I'd rather my guy be out there and be a dog than be like, I'm good with this, So, and look, like some of my shortness in starts was due to health. Like I said, it was 2022 was a struggle. The first half I felt really, really good. But the second half was a big struggle, and I hadn't pitched hardly for the previous 2 seasons. So, in the moment, yeah, of course, I want to squeak as many outs as I possibly can. Especially, I had like 4 straight seasons where I averaged 200 innings. So like I know how valuable that can be, um, but there's limitations, and it kind of showed up for both of us, Dylan Bundy and I. It kind of showed up that being removed a little earlier probably was the best for the team, even though we hated it. We wanted to be out there, and I know Bundy specifically got into it with some different people on the staff, but it was like healthy, because it's like, all right, Bundy, I love the fact that you want the ball. Sometimes as athletes we can be a little delusional, but I rather err on the side of delusional confidence than being super insecure.
Yeah, well put. All right, so this is the last one I got to ask, because I've known you for a long time, and we go back early to your career, and you would do interviews, even I think sometimes from the dugout on an off day that you're not pitching, and because I'll say you won't. People were like, this is the kind of player that we need speaking. We need answers like this, someone who just talks like a real person, not the cookie cutter answers. He's fun. He's exciting. Obviously what you're doing on the mound. So, you heard it at an early age. People were like, he's got to be a broadcaster. I think you might've even, I don't know, maybe you did a game or something like that. So has that been on your mind at all? Or do you really want to take the, more hardcore baseball coaching front office kind of route?
Yeah, well, thank you for those compliments, Bronny. We have known each other for like 10 plus years.
Yeah.
Back when you were like a little skinnier, now you're all ripped and jacked and stuff, wear your hair
I had to.
different.
They were making fun of me.
Please don't.
They were making fun of me. I looked like I was 14 on MLB Network. I was like,
dude,
enough.
Chris, he just wears tighter shirts now. Okay, he just wears. He went from medium shirts to extra small shirts.
I know that trick. I have the same problem. I have the same problem.
It's a Euro fit.
Slim fit, ultra slim. Hey, Chris knows. Chris is jacked too, so he knows.
But no, I think the nice thing about the job that I landed with the Dodgers is it allows me flexibility. So I confided in Gabe Kapler a little bit. He's a close friend of mine. We connected in 2012 in spring training, and we've kind of just stayed connected throughout his whole journey and he's in the front office now, but he's managed 2 clubs. He's been the farm director. He's done broadcast. He's kind of touched it all. And, the flexibility with this position that I have with the Dodgers, it allows me an opportunity to do other things. So given the right opportunity, as long as there was no conflict with the Dodgers, because I do want to take that serious. I don't want to be I want to be in rooms where decisions are being made. And if that makes the Dodgers uncomfortable, then I might shy away from that for now. But if there's something straightforward I can do, like just calling a game or being the color person, and it's something that won't deter from my goals with the Dodgers, then I'm all for it. And I've spoken to a couple different networks, explored some ideas, because baseball does need a little bit better coverage. I mean, we have you guys and we have some other podcasts but we need more. And I feel like I could add a dynamic. I don't think I could carry a show necessarily, but I could add a fun dynamic and have some insight that might be different than others.
A couple of things here. One, you're welcome to join our show anytime. You can take Scott's place. Just you have to get super small shirts. You can sit next to me in Orlando here.
You just said carry a show, AJ.
He said he didn't want to carry a show.
That's why I said that's the only reason I'm here. I'm just a little point guard.
That's why I said you take your place. It'd be perfect. And then Chris, also, I'm going to say this. The only thing, you're talking about doing TV and, you're in the front office of the Dodgers. Remember, I think it was Jessica Mendoza and maybe even David Ross. They were working for specific teams, and teams started not letting them come to meetings with the managers because they didn't want them stealing their information. So it's a little bit of a fine line you got to work there, because if you let's say if you go to work for Fox, ESPN, MLB Network, whatever it is, and you're doing a Giants Padres game, and they know you work for the Dodgers, you walk in there to talk to the manager, Mike Schilt and Bob Melvin. They're not going to give you all their secrets, because guess what? You're going to run back to Andrew Friedman and be like, hey, you know what the Padres are doing? You know what the Giants are doing? So enjoy your time, and there's plenty of time to get into TV if you want to get into it. But, hey, enjoy your time with the Dodgers, and if they're giving you freedom to do a lot of things, use that time and use that freedom to do whatever you want to do.
That's great advice. I've been calling around. I would rather be really good at this, and in 4 to 5 years, if I want to pivot fully, I'll pivot and be really good at that. I really don't want any conflict, because I do want to see how the inner workings of transactions and free agency and scouting and the draft and trade deadline. I want to see that, I think, a little bit more than I want to do broadcast. But if there's an opportunity to maybe add some color, like I said, not do in-depth hit pieces, interviews. If there's an opportunity to pop on with you guys, like on a semi-regular basis, something like that, and it's no conflict, I'd love to do that.
Yeah, that's the spot. I like that. And then ultimately, president of baseball operations, because the big boys are making the big bucks in those jobs. You can make 10 mil a year in those jobs. Some of them now, it's not like when you came into the league. You run a front office the right way. See, Anthopoulos just signed for how many more years? He signed through 2031.
31.
Hey, he deserves it. He's crushing it. But those jobs are getting rewarded too. So you got a lot of potential to do a lot of different things. So excited to see the path, dude. Obviously great to catch up with you. I know we've been chatting about it for a little bit. So great to have you on. Obviously, you're welcome back anytime. Good to see you. And we'll catch you. Will you be at spring training at all?
Yeah, I'll be out in Arizona for spring training.
Cool.
The one thing about the compensation for GMs and president of baseball ops, I mean, honestly, it kind of makes sense that they're getting paid the way at the level that they are, because they're basically the head of a multi-billion-dollar corporation. So like the people that are at that spot in other industries get compensated like that or more. So it kind of makes sense. And then the fact that managers are getting paid more, I think that's huge. Craig Counsell kind of setting the bar there in Chicago. I think that's huge. But we're talking about billion-dollar industries, or billion-dollar organizations, and we zoom out and see it like that. I mean, like, what they're getting paid, it makes complete sense, because I spoke to Sam Fold and he's like, hey, like, this is nonstop. If you enter the front office full time and give it your all, it's nonstop. You don't sleep. You're gonna miss some family events. It just is what it is. But if you want to be great, like, that's what you have to put into it. So I think the compensation is on par.
I agree. They're earning their keep. I mean, they're CEOs. That's the way I look at it. They're CEOs. You could say the owner's like the investor, right? Like that's the money. The CEO who's running everything around the team pretty much is the head of the front office there. So I'm with you. Yeah. I mean, those dudes don't sleep. They work freaking every day. We give them shit when it's like Christmas Eve and they sign a player, but you know what they're doing. They're missing family time to sign a player. So I'm with you, man. Great catching up with you. Good to see you. And hopefully we'll catch you in Arizona. Otherwise, back on here at some point. All right.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys.
Appreciate you. See you, Chris. Chris Archer with us on FT Live. That was great. Good stuff. Obviously, yeah. At a young age. Do you guys remember that? Like he was on ESPN a few times. We had him on when I was doing some games in my old gig, and I mean, he was good. I was like, it was part of this conversation where I'm like, we need more people to speak like this because it's more relatable, and he's young and cool, so it fits. But good stuff. He joined the right team this offseason too. You might get a ring out of it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
He won't, but
he won't. Okay. Well, on that topic, then a little BetMGM action to look at some World Series odds. I think their odds are more likely than this team, but we just spoke to their skipper and maybe things change. But looking at last year, the Angels were plus 4,000 to win a World Series. By mid-July, I went to plus 8,000. Now, remember, at plus 8,000, a couple weeks later, what did they do? It might not have even been a couple weeks later because it wasn't right at the deadline. It was a little before that, right?
Yeah.
When they made their push.
It was like July 20th, somewhere in there when they –
yeah.
Because they were like – it was like 7 days, at least 7 days before the actual trade deadline, because by that time they were like 6 more games out than they were before when they made the moves.
Where I get conflicted, though, AJ, is we're always pushing teams to try. And I don't think anybody looked at the Angels like, oh, this team's going to make the playoffs. But they tried. So, no?
They half-ass tried.
That's true.
They tried with what they had.
Yeah, no,
right,
I know. But
they don't have the prospects to get the tippy
Here's the problem.
Anyway.
They've made all these signings for all these hitters. They don't sign the right pitchers. They haven't developed really pitchers to top of the rotation type of guys. I mean, Sandoval and some other guys are middle rotation guys. That's fine, but they also don't pay the big money to the top of the rotation guys. I mean, I know they probably tried with Garrett Cole, but he wanted to go to the Yankees. Fine, but they missed out too. And you had the 2 best players in baseball for a long time, and guess what they got out of that? 0 playoff wins and 0 playoff appearances. So crazy. It's just crazy the way the Angels have been run. It's crazy the way Angels have switched managers. They tried Joe Madden and then Phil Nevin, and now they're under Ron Washington. But I'll say this, Ron Washington can't change the way things go there. And then Artie Moreno and other people need to look in the mirror, because Ron Washington will do everything in his power to get these guys right.
Yeah, but you have to have the roster. You have to have both.
No,
That's
I
all.
agree. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
If Ron
That's the
Washington
problem.
can't make them better,
Yeah.
then Artie Moreno and Perry Manassian and whoever else is running baseball ops there needs to look in the mirror, because Ron Washington is going to get these players, put them in the right position to succeed, and give them confidence. But again, if they're not the right players in the right roster, it's not going to work. But he'll definitely put them in the right positions.
That's the one thing also, Kratz, that I forgot to get to with Ken was he wrote in his notes column about the Angels and why they won't sign big money pitchers over the years. Really, the only one they were in on was Garrett Cole. I will make the case that it was cute for them to say they were in on him, but they offered less money than the Yankees. So, I mean, sure, he can say he wanted to go to the Yanks. Really? What if you offered him $375 million? Would he still have wanted to go to the Yanks? I don't know. But you have to beat the Yankees offer to actually be on a pitcher like that. And that was historic, apparently, for them within the organization, because if you look at the past, they don't offer $100 million contracts, let alone $300+ million contracts to pitchers. And Ken documented this pretty well in his notes. But largest pitching contract awarded, Jared Weaver, 5 years, $85 million extension back in 2011. Biggest free agent contract they signed since Artie. CJ Wilson, 5 years, $77.5 million. And again, that was 2011. If you look at the recent past, they are not spending money on starting pitching. Ken said, here, let me see if I can find it in here, that one former Angels exec granted anonymity, so he can speak candidly, believes that Artie's preference for offense stems from the playoff defeats that the Angels suffered in the 2000s to slugging teams, 3 to Boston, 1 to the Yanks, and they've signed 6 deals for $100+ million with position players. 2 of those deals are with the same player in Mike Trout. But point is, they have not valued pitching enough in terms of investing in pitching. I agree with that. I'll double down because I've talked about this publicly. The one other thing that I got from an Angels person many years ago was that Artie said starting pitchers pitch every 5th day. So why would he put as much money into someone like that as a position player who they can market every day, who's at the ballpark every day? I get it from a business standpoint. That's not how you win games.
And they've proven that. They've proven it because they've had Pujols. Like, think about, like, people who say, wow, they're not, Artie doesn't want to win. Maybe he just doesn't want to get out of his own way.
They're not cheap. They're stupid.
Right. I mean, I'm not going to say stupid, but
I'm saying the owner is. I mean, he doesn't know how to run a team to win games. That's a fact.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I mean. Maybe he needs to get out of his own way. Let Perry do his thing. Let Ron do his thing, because I'm putting the Angels down for 3 more wins than I thought they were going to have after talking to Wash. I've never had any interaction with Wash. It just never happened. It's amazing that a guy who's been to so many teams during my career, we never connected on one of them. But I've heard nothing but great things about him. So if he can't do it, like AJ said, nobody can. But they got Pujols when he was the best available. They've had Trout. They've extended Trout to make sure he stays forever, because he was the greatest player in the game, and I think he still has the ability to be a top 5 player. And they went and got Rendon. Whether that was right or not, they pivoted from Cole. This is exactly what we're talking about with other teams. Hey, if you offered, Blue Jays really did offer something to Yamamoto, if they offered $325 million, pivot. Use that money on 2 players. Put $325 million into 2 players. But sometimes owners don't do that. Artie did it. Smart or not smart, he did it. He put that cash out there. Got Josh Hamilton, all those dudes. Banged before they got there, and kind of didn't go so well.
That's right. So anyway, I don't know if you want to put any money down for the Angels to win the World Series, but I would hold tight there. Let's put it that way.
They go inside Bellinger, Montgomery, Snell. Who else is out there? I mean, if they just sign them all, then I like their chances better.
If they get Snell, I would revisit looking at the roster.
At their playoff chances? Okay.
Playoff chances.
Yeah.
Not World Series.
Yeah. Tough division too. Anyway, your first BetMGM sportsbook wager through the BetMGM app of at least $5 can turn into $158 instantly in bonus bets. If you use the promo code FOUL, FOUL, you'll receive the $158 of bonus bets in additional winnings, regardless of your wager's outcome. When you download the app, sign up and deposit at least $5 into the new account, place a wager in the amount of at least $5 at standard odds price. And once you place that bet, it's $158 in bonus bets, regardless of the outcome of your wager. Gambling problem or concern? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Let's slap. Actually, super relevant on we got a big Angels week going here, so I'll get any other names if someone gives them to me. But I do know that Reed Detmers, starting pitcher for the Angels, is joining us tomorrow. So that's a good guy to talk to you about Angels pitching and where they're at right now. Kratz, what do you got on your head right now?
Lehigh Idol Bigs. Another one of the 63 different hats that they have. It's a pig, if you didn't know what it was.
It's an excellent hat.
Iron pig.
It's an excellent hat. AJ, grade the hat. No?
Yeah. Just meh. I mean,
it's kind of plain to me. I mean, it's hard. I mean, I know it's a pig, but
it's like an angry pig.
What else do
they
you
have
want?
betters?
It's got a furrowed brow.
I want to see an iron pig, not an angry pig.
It's an iron pig. It's silver. There's iron in it.
I think it's fantastic. I don't want to overdo it.
The guy who's rooting for the Bucks tonight.
Fair Territory also comes out tomorrow with Ken Rosenthal. We'll be back from various locations on FT. But any questions, if you're watching right now, that you have for Reed Detmers, send us a DM on Instagram and we can get to a couple of those. Otherwise, just join us live for the show every day, 1 to 3-ish Eastern time. Oh, this is big too on the way out. Sweatshirts. We got hoodies up on the shop.
Perfect timing.
SouthTerritoryShop.com. Get it. It's freaking cold this week.
AJ needs it. AJ needs it right now. He's going to Jersey.
Freezing here.
No,
freezing.
He's going to Jersey. He needs a sweatshirt.
You need it.
I mean, it's a solid 65 to 70 here today. It's freezing.
It gets cold.
Get that hoodie for Jersey next week. See you, people.
Go Birds.